Have you ever really felt the cold of a city made of glass? Not buildings, but of expectations. Let's you and I wander for a moment into a kind of dark fable, a journey that begins in just such a place. Let's see what becomes of a soul who finally dares to leave. Our story begins now. So this is where our story kicks off, right here in this gilded cage. It's a place where everyone feels safe, but at the same time, everyone is, well, they're dying inside. It's a city where just surviving is mistaken for actually living. And polite lies, those are the currency that keeps the spirit locked up, just slowly rotting away behind this perfect, transparent facade.
And life in this cage, it's called the frantic theater of the self. Think about it. Everyone is wearing masks, so perfectly crafted, so surgically precise, that they start to forget their own faces. They're all praying to some distant judge who never, ever answers. And they live on wax fruit, all the things society tells them they should want, but that offer no real nourishment. And the result of all this? Every single person becomes a fractured mirror, just reflecting broken pieces of everyone else, absolutely terrified of showing their true face.
But then, something changes. Into this perfectly sterile world steps a catalyst, a shadowy figure. Call it the monster. And it's not here to destroy, but to disrupt. It uses this strange, grotesque logic to just shatter the comfortable architecture of their lives. And then it presents a choice. And this isn't some simple choice between good and evil. It's a choice between two very different paths: the hollow safety of the city or a dangerous descent into the wilderness of your own mind. And just like that, the choice is made. Our traveler steps out of the city and enters the very first stage of transformation. But this is no sunny meadow we're walking into. This is the wilderness of the psyche. And the first form you have to take here is that of the camel.
So what does it actually mean to become the camel? It's the spirit that looks at its own life and says, I will carry it all. It's the conscious decision to bear the full, crushing, industrial weight of your own truth. Every mistake, every weakness, all that ignoble knowledge from your past. You carry it all without flinching. And it's a journey you have to make in silence and solitude, with no one there to comfort you.
And the landscape of this journey, it's incredibly unforgiving. The path ahead winds through this Gothic wasteland, a forest where the trees are made of jagged stone. And you might ask, what are these stone trees? Well, they're the physical forms of every trauma, every pain you've ever pushed down and refused to look at. You don't just remember them here, you have to walk among them. And the burdens themselves, they're not vague anxieties, they're specific. There's the burden of repeating old pains, the heavy, sinking feeling of your own internal decay, and that cold, constant weight of the truth. But maybe the hardest part of all, you have to refuse any easy way out. There's no midwife of the abyss, no comforting guide, no quick fix who can ease this load. It must be carried alone.
But carrying the weight is just the beginning. The journey has to go deeper. From the wasteland, our traveler descends into the very core of the self, down into a subterranean temple for one final, fiery confrontation. This is the place where the self is completely unmade. They call it the agony of 10,000 hells. But it's not physical pain. No, it's a blight of revelation. It's that horrifying yet clarifying moment when every single lie you've told yourself, every comfortable illusion you've clung to, is just burned away, leaving nothing but the raw, unfiltered truth. And who's the architect of all this agony? It's the daemon of truth. But see, this isn't some external enemy. It's the part of you that's been watching all along. It's your own uncanny shadow, the perfect, unflinching mirror of every single hypocrisy you've ever ignored. And now, it's here to judge you with brutal, clinical logic. So this is the showdown, right? The two opposing forces clashing. On one side, the demon offers what's called the logic of zero, basically an end to all suffering by ending the self. It argues that your very existence is an error, and the only real peace is in non-being. But rising up against it is a new power, the lion's sacred no. And it's not a debate. It's a primal, violent, and somehow beautiful affirmation of life itself, a total rejection of the end. And this is the turning point. The camel, having carried all its burdens, now transforms. It becomes the lion, a creator of its own freedom. It finally faces the demon, that spirit that always negates, and with all of its might, it just roars, no.
It slays that impulse to surrender, and instead, it chooses to become. From the ashes of that battle, the final act begins. And this isn't about recovery. It's about creation. The spirit becomes a self-propelled wheel, turning inside an hourglass not of time, but of eternal becoming.
So let's just break that down again. This incredible journey happens in 3 distinct stages. First, you're the camel, the spirit of reverence that carries its history. Then you become the lion, the spirit of rebellion that wins its own freedom. And finally, from that freedom, emerges the child, the spirit of innocence and creation, a new beginning.
So what is this new self actually like? Well, it's a sovereign. It's a holy fool, wise enough to be innocent again. It's a light that doesn't need an external sun anymore, because it generates its own source. It's a self-propelled wheel, moving by its own will. And it returns to the world, not to conform, but to dance, freely, on the shattered masks of that old city of glass.
And the fable ends with this powerful idea, the logic of one. Remember, the demon argued for 0, for non-being, but the sovereign self is the ultimate proof of one, of existence. Every act of creation, every single moment of authentic living, is an ongoing argument against the void.
This journey, from a gilded cage to a sovereign self, it's a brutal but beautiful architecture of becoming. And in the end, it leaves us with one essential question. Knowing that nothing truly dies where one chooses to grow, what will you create from your own jagged stones?